Hey everyone, Wydog here again, this time with Game 3 of a Best of 7 series from the Grand Final of the Dreamhack Winter 2013 edition. And this time on Yeonsu, we've got spawning in the top right as the Red Zerg, and winner of Game 2 to even up the series 1-1. Representing Team Starcraft, we have Life. And Life was able to defeat his opponent in the last game, From the person spawning in the bottom left as the Blue Terran, representing Team Liquid, we have Taeja. And the last game was quite interesting because both players opted to try to proxy each other on Polar Night. But Life was able to get the better of Taeja in that proxy matchup. Proxy barracks versus the proxy hatchery. Something that we don't see that often from Zerg players. So possibly we might be seeing a more standard game this time. Looks like Taeja is going to be going out with a very standard, safe supply depot and barracks on the high ramp build. Now, Life has been known to go for more hatchery first builds, going for that economic advantage that a lot of Zerg players like to opt for. And we don't have any buildings out for Life yet. I do see 300 minerals being built up, so it looks like we will be seeing a hatchery first from Life. Now, Life was able to defeat Patience in the losers final quite handedly in 4 games, and in the 3 games he won, he was going for a very macroeconomic sort of strategy. It'll be interesting to see if we're going to see a similar strategy again. In those games, he opted not to get Zergling speed early, and it looks like once again we don't have any extractors out, so Life is probably going to be postponing getting that Zergling speed just a little bit later. Now we are going to see that first Reaper popping out of that barracks fairly soon for Taeja. And Life's Overlord is going to be able to spot that barracks. Now, obviously, he cannot see what unit is coming out, but Reapers are quite useful on Yeonsu, simply because there are so many ramps. There's this perfect spot right here where actually on the very low ground you can hop up 2 spots to get into the main, or just harass the naturals. The Reaper is going to be popping out here. The Life's Overlord is going to be able to see it, so he knows exactly what is coming his way. So Taeja opting for a very, very safe build, and that Reaper is going to be looking for some drone blood. And the question is what is he going to find? Now, we do have Zerglings on the way out as well as the Queen, but the Queen is only about half finished, so this Reaper should be able to do some damage. Is he going to be able to pick off any drones? That is yet to be seen. Now, it looks like the drone is going to be rallying with the Zerglings to do some damage. One Zergling will go down. Great micro from Taeja, able to pick off 2 Zerglings, but this Reaper only has 10 life left. He has to be very careful here. He wants to regenerate life. Otherwise, this Reaper will go down, and it won't be worth losing a Reaper for it. Now, the second Reaper is going to be able to reinforce this lone Reaper, and now with 2 Reapers, it looks like another Zergling will go down. This Reaper wasn't fully regenerated, so interesting move by Taeja being very aggressive, not waiting for the full regenerative abilities of that Reaper. But looks like he will be sending one more Reaper to scout out the main, seeing what kind of drones he might be able to feast on. Unfortunately, the Queen is able to get into position, so it doesn't look like either of these Reapers are going to claim any drone kills currently. Now Taeja's natural command center is going to finish up here very quickly. And at the same time, looks like Life is going to be looking for more extractors. He's going to try and get 100 gas. I think he wants that Zergling speed. Now, it looks like one drone might be able to go down. No, Taeja was not able to kill that drone, but he is going to be able to kill one transferring from the main to the natural. So finally, the Reapers have been able to destroy one drone. And they are going to be regenerating, excuse me. It looks like the Queens are going to be able to pick apart one Reaper. Taeja was not paying attention. So unfortunately, Taeja is going to lose one of those Reapers. Now, even though Reapers obviously lose their effectiveness as time goes on in the game, they still are very useful for the mid game, because if they're still alive, they can scout out opponents' timings and bases. So And in conjunction with Hellions, they can still do quite a bit of damage to Zerglings. So Taeja is still able to save one of the Reapers, so not entirely a bad position for Taeja. And he is reinforcing with that factory, with that reactor. So we are going to see 6 Hellions out on the map very quickly here, pushing back that creep. And now we're at the 8-minute mark, and I haven't really seen any creep spread. We do have one creep tumor actually moving from the natural into the main, but no creep tumors moving out of the base. So if Life doesn't get very good creep spread, Taeja will have pretty good map control, and I think that's going to be problematic for a Zerg player, especially in the long run. Now, Zergling speed has been started. It's about a third finish, but at the same time, Stimpack is going to finish actually before Zergling speed finishes, so that's going to be interesting. That generally does not occur. Generally, Zergling speed does finish before Stimpack. Well, it looks like it's going to be the other way around in this matchup. Now, even though there's not a lot of creep spread, you may be saying, well, what's the point of the Hellions? They're not doing very much because they're primarily used to push back the creep. But, I mean, if you can have the Hellions and your opponent just opts not to have any creep tumors, I mean, that's still a great deal for Taeja, because then he doesn't really have to worry about the creep spread until much later in the game. So I'm not sure why Life's not using creep spread more effectively here. But we're going to be focusing on that Lone Reaper once again. He is going to get surrounded by those Zerglings. Unfortunately, not able to get that scout out, as I was talking about before. It looks like the first few Mutalisks are going to be popping out soon. And I don't think Taeja was able to spot that Spire, but his Hellions have been able to spot 4 inbound Mutalisks. And there are missile turrets on the way, at least one. And the Marines are trying to rush back to the main base. Unfortunately, that missile turret is not going to finish in time. The Marines are going to be able to reinforce the position, so this missile turret will be able to finish. So just in the nick of time, the Marines have been rallied to the correct position. Looks like the Mutalisks are going to go for another volley, this time hitting the main production facilities. But once again, the Mutalisks will be pushed back by that large group of Marines. Now, Taeja has to be careful here. The Mutalisks are surrounding the 6 Hellions. One does go down, so does the second one. And Taeja is able to escape with the bulk of his Hellions, but he did lose 2 for the low price of nothing. So great pickoffs by Life. Picking off some free units is never a bad deal. Now, while all that was going on, Life was able to get his 3rd base up and running, so very interesting. He now has that 1 base advantage Zerg players generally need over their non-Zerg opponents. And Life is trying to do some harassment with those Mutalisks, but the Marines are keeping the Mutalisks at bay. Now, at the same time, Life does have a small contingent. Maybe not that small. I got about 20 Banelings here, and we got 3 more on the way. And in conjunction with these Mutalisks and Zerglings, Life looks like he's going to be going for a vicious attack. The Banelings are going to be rolling in there first. And that bunker is not going to survive. Slide Depot goes down as well. The Banelings are rushing in there in conjunction with the Zerglings. The Banelings are able to get a great connection on the Marines. The Marines are trying to spread out here. At the same time, none of the SCVs are being targeted down. Another contingent of Marines are rushing down that ramp to try to do some reinforcing. Unfortunately for the Banelings, they are all going to get popped off before they're able to do significant damage. So it looks like Life is going to have to retreat. So even though Life was able to do some damage there, I'm not sure if he did enough damage. The supplies are only about 15 in favor of our Zerg player. And now with those 5 mules dropping down for Taeja, excuse me, 4 mules, Taeja is going to get a lot of resources. So with 3 bases to 3, Taeja's able to hold on to his economic prowess. And it looks like Life is going to come in here and try to do some damage to these mules. One does go down. Looks like a second one, it might go down as well. There we go. The Marines are going to be able to step in here and finish off the remaining Zerg forces. But at the same time, we've got Zerglings all over Taeja's natural. But Taeja is able to get back with his stimming Marines, rushing back to deal the final blows. But it looks like another attack is coming in. The Widow Mines are in position, getting a great connection on the Mutalisks, doing a lot of splash damage to the ones that do survive. The Banelings get some connections, but not doing a lot of damage to the Marines. The Marines are using the terrain to shield themselves from the Zerglings, but there's too many Mutalisks here. The Mutalisks are going to be able to do a lot of damage to these SCVs and mules, and Taeja is going to once again have to reinforce his position. The bunker has not finished, and the Widow Mines are going to be able to blow up a few Zerglings, but the detonations are not that good. So Life is just constantly applying the pressure. He's not allowing Taeja to really mine from that third base. And now Taeja has fallen back to his natural. His third orbital cannon has been lifted. SCVs are retreating. Unfortunately, they're taking a lot of abuse and damage. And even though resources lost are in favor of Taeja, I think Life is really taking it to him. Now, at the same time, because Life is doing that, he's not really building any drones to mine from that third base. So even though he does have that third hatchery in a lot of ways, it's still 2 bases on 2. And for Zerg players, for Life in this situation, he may burn out. So Taeja is going to retreat back to his natural. This medevac is not going to survive. Finally picked off with 1 hit left. And the Zerglings are going to be able to get up the ramp because the supply depot actually raises itself. So very interesting choice by Taeja. And now the Zerglings are in the production area as well as the Mutalisk. Engineering base as well as SCVs are under attack. The lone missile turret is going to try to defend against those 6 Mutalisks. Able to scare away the huge flock of Mutalisks. So interesting. The Mutalisks did not stay. But it looks like Life is finally going to be able to deal with those pesky Widow Mines. He does have a lone Overseer, able to detect the Widow Mines finally. And Taeja is going to finally stabilize on the 2 bases. His third base is once again scared away by the Mutalisk. And in fact, Taeja's orbital cannon is burning down. Our SCV is going to be able to get there in time to repair it. It's at 60 life. The SCVs are repairing frantically. The Mutalisks are focusing down on that orbital command. More SCVs are pulled off the line, and that orbital command is not going to go down. So very interesting. Now that orbital command is still melting away because it is in the orange, in the deep orange. So Life is really putting the pressure on our Terran player. He's not giving him a lot of space to move. And finally, it looks like Life might be able to build some drones to start mining from that third base. And he desperately needs to because I think he's losing quite a few more resources there on our Terran player. Now, one of the things, even though Life has been able to constantly hold Taeja back, Taeja in the meantime has been able to get 2 upgrades in the meantime, while Life doesn't have any upgrades. And so that's going to be a huge problem for Life. Because even though he's holding Taeja back on 2 bases, each unit that Taeja builds is just intrinsically so much better than the units that Life builds. He is getting +1 melee attacks, finally. We are at the 18-minute mark in the game. And with the supplies fairly even, Taeja should be able to use this time to use that upgrade advantage to do a significant damage to our Zerg player. And with all these mules coming down at the same time, I count 9. There's 9 mules on the map at the same time. That's going to be a lot of resources going to Taeja. He's going to be getting rich really fast. It's kind of like when you play Monopoly and you build a whole bunch of hotels and they never land on them until the one time they land on Boardwalk, and then all of a sudden your day is a lot brighter. That's kind of what 9 mules are like. But unfortunately, Life is trying to do some damage with those Mutalisks. We do have a lot of Mutalisks on the map. We do have 13, but the Marines are able to scare them away. Now, Banelings are able to roll in here and deal with all the mules. So even though that doesn't show up on the Resources Lost tab, that's a lot of lost mining opportunity for Taeja. So very, very effective use of Banelings, stopping all that mineral mining. So Taeja is going to be moving across the map. He's going to take control of the South Zelnaga Tower. I think this is the first time Taeja's been out of his side of the map since those first 2 Reapers. But the Banelings are going to be coming in here again, once again, trying to do some economic damage, rolling in, killing a lot of SCVs. So Taeja's mining once again, taking a huge loss. But you do have to remember, Banelings are very expensive, so I don't know how long Life can keep this up. Sacrificing all these units just to deal some economic damage to our Terran player. Life is going to come in once again with his Mutalisk flock. He's now into the main base. There aren't that many SCVs here, but he's still doing some damage. The Marines are going to stem back to the position, trying to scare away these Mutalisks, and Mutalisks will fall back. And Taeja is going to be putting up quite a few more missile turrets to deal with further Mutalisk attacks. I think this is wise. Even though you don't have that many SCVs here, you don't want to lose the mining capability. There's still about 1,500 Vespene gas left in these 2 geysers. Now, 1-1 is going to finish for Life, so his units won't be that far behind. But 3-3 is about halfway done for Taeja. So Taeja's units are still a lot better than Life's. So if you take a look at that supply, it is fairly even. So I think Taeja does have the upper hand now. And if you notice, Life doesn't have a 4th base. So for a majority of that game, excuse me, Life has had this 3rd base. And but wasn't mining from it. Now he is, but at the same time, Taeja is mining quite a bit more because he has those mules. So I really feel like Life is quite a bit behind. And if you take a look at resources lost, he's also lost not that much more, but a little bit more resources than our Terran player. So I think Taeja is ahead. So it's going to be interesting to see how Taeja is going to deal with this. One Widow Mine connection, able to destroy one Mutalisk, and quite a bit of splash damage to the rest. Now the Mutalisks are going to be able to regenerate quite quickly. So that is a good sign for Life. And at the same time, he is going to be trying to establish that 4th hatchery that he really, really needs at this point. I really think he's behind economically compared to Taeja. And with +3 armors almost finished as well, his units are going to be down 2 levels of upgrades for about a minute or so before 2-2 finishes for Life. There we go. 3-3 is now finished for Taeja. It looks like this might be the timing attack that he's looking for. He is moving across the map, and now he sees the creep of Life. A few scans are going to be placed, and the creep spread is going to be a little bit less than before. The Marines are going to stim back as the incoming amount of Zerglings are trying to do some damage, but we do have a drop at that 4th base. Taeja is going to stim with all those Marines focusing down on that hatchery. The hatchery might not make it. The Zerglings have been able to surround that Marine attack force, able to chew away at those Marines. Unfortunately, the hatchery does go down. So those 8 brave Marines able to do exactly what they were sent for. They were all sacrificed, but not in vain. And now Life is going to have to reestablish that 4th base once again. That Marine able to spot it as well. At the same time, Widow Mine's in position for Taeja's 4th base. And 2 Widow Mine connections are going to be able to scare away that entire Mutalisk flock. And with 3 more missile turrets going up, it's going to be very difficult for just Mutalisk to attack this position. And what is interesting at this 4th base for Taeja is we don't have a planetary fortress. Taeja just lifted his main orbital command, excuse me, to this 4th position. So that is a little bit different than usual. So if Zerglings do attack that position, it may be vulnerable because we don't have a bunker here. Now Taeja is trying to be very aggressive here. Once again, putting 8 Marines in this medevac, going to be dropping down at that 4th hatchery. A lone queen to defend. I don't think that's going to be very effective, but at the same time, we do have action in the south quadrant of the map. Life is trying to retreat with his Zerglings, Banelings, and Mutalisks. The Stimming Marines and Widowmine trying to cut them off. Able to pick off a few Banelings, but now the Banelings are going to rush forward. Oh, able to melt away about 20 Marines going down in that acidity attack. So very unfortunate for those Marines, but Taeja is going to push forward, now attacking that 3rd base of Life. The Queen does go down. The Zerglings are rushing in here, but there aren't that many Banelings. And with just Zerglings and Mutalisks, I don't think they do very well against a whole bunch of Stim Marines. The rocks do go down, able to cut off some of that attacking force. But I think Life lost quite a few units there. Resources lost is widening, and our Zerg player is falling behind. Another scan does go down, able to clean up some of that creep spread, and that 4th base has been plopped down once again. But all while this is going on, Life is not mining from that 4th base, while Taeja is mining very comfortably from his. So the Terran player, not only is he mining more, he's making better use of his resources. And Life is falling farther and farther behind. He's down by 18 supply. The Banelings are going to roll in here on the creep, able to get some good connections, able to destroy about 10 Marines. Unfortunately, not much more after that, and now more Banelings are rolling in here. The spreads are going on. The spreads are occurring for the Marines. Marines able to spread quite significantly well. And Taeja's main Marine attack force, there's still about 12 in this composition, or 16, able to survive that Baneling and Mutalisk barrage. And now that creep spread is falling back into Life's 3rd base. At the same time, looks like Life may be going for a counterattack of his own. The Widowmine able to deal with all those Zerglings, but it looks like we've got so many Mutalisks. I don't think 3 missile turrets is going to be good enough. The Mutalisks should be able to clean this up. At the same time, we do have a huge counterattack from Taeja attacking Life's 3rd base. If you take my base, I'll take yours. So 1-for-1 trade. Now, generally, as a Zerg player, if you're ahead, that's not a bad deal. But because Life is behind, I don't think this is a very good trade for our Zerg player. And it looks like Taeja doesn't care that he's lost this mining base. He didn't lose it entirely. He is repairing that orbital command. And now those Mutalisks are moving back and forth. They will pick off a couple of these medevacs. But the Marines are moving back. And with a huge contingent here protecting this base as well, those Mutalisks aren't going to be able to do very much. So Taeja very, very aggressive, taking down that base after losing a whole bunch of SCVs and missile turrets from this base. But he's built a 20 supply advantage, and those Mutalisks are going to be able to clean up this small contingent of Marines. And those Mutalisks are looking for something to feast on. Now, they only have +1 attacks and 0 armor against 3/3 Marines, so Marines generally just melt these Mutalisks. But the Marines don't have the mobility that the Mutalisks have, and now they are going to be focusing at that third base, focusing down that orbital command. The missile turrets do not have the range. This orbital command might fall. SCVs are repairing, but the orbital command does fall, so great pickoff by Life, using those Mutalisks to their full capacity, even though their upgrades are far behind Taeja's. But unfortunately, even with that blow, it looks like Taeja still has a 20 supply advantage, and he still has quite a significant upgrade advantage. He has 3/3 compared to Life's 2/2 Zerglings, and compared to Life's 1/0 Mutalisks. So Taeja will be moving across the map. He'll be looking for blood. A scan does go down, able to see where the creep spread is, but not much else. But the Mutalisks are going to be moving once again to that fourth base. So we got so many Widow Mines. I think this is a horrible decision. Lots of Mutalisks do go down immediately, and the resources loss is building up for our Zerg player. And once again, the Mutalisks are going to try and come in here, but they've taken so much splash damage that these Marines might be able to clean up these Mutalisks quite easily. And with that Overseer finally popping as well, now there's no way to detect those mines, so Taeja just being very, very aggressive and putting so many Widow Mines here. Generally, you don't expect 15 Widow Mines clumped in one mineral line, but it worked out for Taeja in that instance. And now it looks like with just that lone medevac and a whole bunch of injured Marines and Widow Mines, he will be stampeding forward. And unfortunately for Life, he basically only has 11 Mutalisks. He has actually 15 Banelings and about 40 Zerglings. But again, 72 Marines and a whole bunch of Widow Mines. I don't think this is going to stack up very well for Life. The Widow Mines are in position, able to pop up all those Banelings, but losing 7 Marines in that exchange. At the same time, it looks like we've got some harassing Marines below this ridge line, dealing some damage to this drone line. So we've got 2 attacks by Taeja, not allowing Life to really breathe freely while he's mining. The Banelings are going to get some poor connections on these Marauders. And Taeja is going to do some more damage here at this fourth base of Life. At the same time, he still has a small squadron of Marines doing some damage to this drone line at that third base. So Taeja is attacking 2 bases at once, and Life is having difficulty deciding where to go. The Banelings don't get good connections at that fourth base. Marines are going to be able to clean up here, and Life is going to type out a full good game. Wow, I haven't seen that in a long time. Generally, it's just GG. So Life, unfortunately, not able to deal with the multi-pronged attacks. And that's one of the things, I've seen this happen before, especially between Pult and Hyun, where Zerg players really focus on trying to contain the Terran on 2 or 3 bases. But when you're hyper-aggressive, you end up also losing the ability to upgrade, and you're also losing the ability to make drones. And so it's kind of a semi-all-in sort of strategy in my viewpoint, because if you're able to cripple or contain the Terran player, then you can finally expand and you can start playing like a macroeconomic Zerg does. But if you don't, and once you commit to it and it doesn't work, then you're already behind. And then once you try to switch as a Zerg player to be more economic heavy, you're already behind. And if the Terran player detects that you're switching to an economic play, then the Terran player is able to counterattack you and make much more effective use of their resources. So I generally don't see this strategy working out for Zerg players. I feel that this game is another example where You know, you try to contain the Terran player, and it just didn't work for 10, 15 minutes. And unfortunately, once you did that, you're fully committed. You can't change. So it's very unfortunate for Life. He didn't have the upgrades. His Mutalisks were just too weak, especially against 3-3 Bio. 1-0 Mutalisks are not going to do very much. So Taeja able to take Game 3 in a 30-minute battle between the two Goliaths. So we're going to head over to Game 4, and it'll be interesting to see. Are we going to see another proxy strategy? Because Life, in the 2 games, in Game 1 and 3, where it's gone to a very more standard macro game, Taeja has been able to win quite handedly. But in Game 2, when it was a proxy game, Life was able to win that one. So are we going to see some sort of 1 or 2 base roach all in, some sort of 10-minute timing, some banelings? It'll be interesting to see. So let's head over to Game 4 and see what happens.